Hey, it has been a minute. Sorry there. You know, you got to draw the line in the sand somewhere. And, uh, like, I feel rotten. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, I'm still dealing with this ear infection. Ear infections have always been a thing for me since I was a kid, just very susceptible to them, and they tend to put me down. But today I'm pumped up because it's a focus thing. I was just, as I do every single day, at least to some extent, listen to a little bit of Tony Robbins and intentionally aim myself in the right direction. And today he was talking about, in the hour of power, he was talking about the triad of patterns that you run to intentionally aim yourself. And I I lied. I said I was going to, or I didn't follow through. Rather, I had intentions of following through. Sorry about that. Had intentions of following through on doing my podcast, but um, you know, it was it was a very emotional weekend for myself, and for dadgum. I don't know if that's coming through, but if it is, I apologize. Anyway, but it was emotional to me from the standpoint of, my father is retiring, and he taught me everything about what it means to be a man and go out there and create what you want and go out there and get what you want. And to see the impact that he had on people's lives throughout his 30 and a half years of teaching at this one place. And he taught for several years before that too. It was like just watching him transition into a new phase of his life at the same time I'm simultaneously doing the same thing. And it's not about me. This event, I've struggled with, after, comparing yourself to others. It's even difficult to do it within your family. And I respect my dad and love my dad very much. And he's changed people's lives. And I only, it's my goal to continue his legacy and transform lives as he has. And that's why it means so much to me. And that's why it's been an emotional weekend. And that's why I took a rest from podcasting. I could make some business excuses of like, I didn't know where I was or where I was going, but or who I was talking to, or something else witty right now. But I'm just, this whole ride ever since joining the 2 Comma Clubettes coaching group and learning how to play this game of online marketing, this siege, as we all know, it has been one of the most life transforming journeys. I've grown so much as a person, and it's because of having willingly thrown my life into a tailspin and going on this journey has brought me to this point to where not only will I be able to match, but just amplify my ability to reach my person, coming from a spot where I was very scared and very afraid to put myself out there and be vulnerable, especially now. But I say all that to say that I'm going to have to do a better job of scheduling this. I need to be consistent. So I need you guys to help me out here. I'm throwing myself out there and being accountable to you. The live stream will start at 10 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. But anyway, today's podcast is in that business sense of that trap of willing confinement and isolation, because after my last podcast, I really had to take a step back because I realized within myself that I was aggressively defending video games and not necessarily my message, my larger impact. And as a result, that threw my focus off, like with the greatest intentions of the world, the focus being off, the focus not being in the right spot, not talking to the right person. Oh man, that's everything when it comes to developing your attractive character. And of course, I've been, I love Rainbow Six Siege, but it's not the most important thing in my life. But I do think it's really cool tying it together, and it's funny the things that I value in comparison to a lot of people. It's me learning more about me. My wife made a comment, at some point on the way home yesterday, and she said, "It's because it's amazing listening to you and your dad talk about the human body, and he's a science teacher, anatomy and physiology, and as he said at some point in his speech, he said, I was checking library books out from the college whenever I was 4 years old, and that was a true statement, and that's a large reason why I'm the scientist and the artist that I am, because I remember he would bring me home these copies of his test or copies of his worksheets or something, and I would draw on them. I would draw on the back of them. I love to draw. I hadn't done it in a long time, hadn't even pursued it, and that's another thing that was just right now another something that that's hitting me. But I would also answer his test. I'd take his test then, and so it's just like the scientific method means a lot to me as a result of that. And I haven't even done a great job of following that in regards to this funnel game because my focus was off. I thought it was fear. I mean, it was fear. It always is at the core. You can always mask it with something else, but there's some sort of fear that if you can identify it and just step into it, you can resolve it and just kind of kill it before it becomes Godzilla in your brain. But just that ability, ever since then, ever since I was 4 years old, ever since I've always appreciated both the science and the art. And Tony Robbins, of course, talks about the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. And sometimes the art has been off. I'm left-handed, as my mom would say, and I am left-handed, but I've had so many injuries that I've become ambidextrous. And I don't know if that has anything to do with it either, but it's just like these challenges that you overcome shape your spirit, shape your soul. It's just these challenges are meant in the game of life to make you stronger. And it was learning that important skill from my father at a very early age, that ability to adapt and overcome. Sometimes it's strength, sometimes it's finesse, but there's not too much in the universe that's unpredictable if you're following the scientific method about things. So I say all that to say, it's just easier for me to talk like this sometimes. I don't know. So that being said, I love you, Dad. Happy retirement. And I'm here to show you how to keep teaching and keep making that impact if it comes back to you, which it probably will. He never stops. So today's actual podcast, though, is about Sledge and knocking down walls. And those walls are a metaphor for your own limiting beliefs. So before I actually get started on this, I have to say Bud's back in town, so we're going to have to step out for a second. The call to action today is going to be to come subscribe on YouTube to watch the behind the scenes, because that's the good stuff right there. Like that was hard for me. That was my fears, talking about, trying to, the old classic, trying to fill your father's shoes and be man enough. It's like, it was right there. So, all right, I got to escort Sadybug out. I got to pull up my picture. I'm going to be looking at my framework that I use every time from Russell Brunson and his Expert Secrets, and his Epiphany Bridge model that I have tested and tweaked and run backwards and forwards and upside down and really geeked out over. And I love doing it. That's it. It's the storytelling, but it's the details, So, all right, 1 second. See that? Ear infection. I'm hurt. All right, Sadie, come on, baby. Okay. All right, guys, here we go. 3, 2, 1, and what's up, guys? Today, I'm going to talk about how to actually break out and make your greatest contribution. And it's not, or at least it wasn't for me, it's not in the place that I initially looked for that ability. I kept looking for permission for something, and I didn't know what that something was for a very long time, very, very long time. And I was trying to make a difference, the greatest impact I can make, and not only for myself, but for others as well, especially my teammates, my closest friends, my family. And I wanted to create this win-win scenario to where, I could make my contribution to them and the world. And I found myself in this place of frustration and exhaustion and exclusion from the very people that I was trying to help. And it was creating a lot of dissonance in my life. I mean, it's just this feeling of tension, this always being turned on, and not in the good way, in the bad way, like always ready for a fight, always tense through the shoulders. I was experiencing a bunch of neck pains, but the thing that was causing this frustration, exhaustion, and exclusion wasn't that I was going out there and busting my butt and hustling and doing everything that I could within my power, because I actually was, and that was the problem. The problem was I was doing everything instead of the stuff that I was actually meant for. And not only that, but I was focused on B level opportunities, or worse, B or C, maybe even D or F, let's be honest, F level opportunities. And I don't say that necessarily to throw rots at the streamers and YouTubers of the world, but they're just hard-headed. Me being one of them, me coming from that, and it's just they're confused entrepreneurs. They don't know where they are yet. They are already taking these steps to transform their life, but they're still very much in their way, and they're, it's a hard community to penetrate, because let's be honest, and this is coming from myself personally as well, as I feel like I can speak for, pretty much every human being in the world, but we've all experienced trauma at some point in our life, and video games are a way that a lot of us choose to decompress. And it was funny, because I really felt bad about this for a long time. I've always been a little bit non-accepting of myself at times, and a little bit ashamed for some reason. It's never really mattered what it was externally that I was doing. It's always been this internal kind of thing, this feeling of guilt. And it was because I knew I wasn't playing at the level that I could be. I knew I had level 10 skills, and I was playing down here, and I was focused on the wrong person, because I wanted to go back and help myself from a time where I was very hard-headed. I was very stuck in my ways. I was stuck in the bottomless pit of, low depression and extreme social anxiety. And, as I've mentioned at great length before, video games have always carried me through some very tough times. And, I was ashamed of that. It's not like I didn't have a grip on everything else. It was just, I felt like I could use my time a little bit better than what I was doing, but that didn't mean that I had to walk away completely. In fact, that was the wrong thing to do. But I tried that route, and it was funny. I was having a conversation with my wife just last night. I was like, is it all right if I just play video games and it's not a part of the job? And she was like, yeah. I was like, really? It was like, wow. Because honestly, making a job out of the video games had taken all the fun out of it for me. And that was a good thing, to the degree of like getting up and getting in motion and taking back control of my life, because I was stuck. I wasn't doing the things necessary to move the ball forward. And, I had to knock the walls down of my life. And, no person better to think about the knocking walls down the good old Sledge and Rainbow Six Siege. He's really the operator I go to whenever I don't know who else to pick. His gun's reliable. His hammer is pretty straightforward, but there is a plan to it. And the way that relates to the message today, the marketing message, is Sledge creates opportunities, is who he is. Sledge is an opportunity creator, and he does that by knocking down the walls. And so I knew that if I was going to get out of this place, I was going to have to knock down the walls within my brain, also known as limiting beliefs. And my belief for the longest time was I wasn't good enough to serve the type of customer that I could demand a certain amount of money from. I did not value myself. But, if if you're going to be knocking down walls in the game of Siege, it's like you got to know who you're looking for. You got to know who's friendly and who's not. And remember, is like the staying focused on the objective instead of focused on picking up the kills, picking up the frags, picking up the money, picking up the dollars on the ground. Is you gotta keep your focus in the correct spot. And I wasn't focusing on who I should be selling to. And that's where that B level and below competition really came back to bite me right there. Not only that, it was like I was losing track of where these people might even be. And, you know, a large part of that is sending that drone out there and gathering intel and figuring out where the objectives are, where your ideal customers are, so to speak, that you can either flush out and let your teammate pick up the kill or knock down that wall and create that angle for your teammate. But, you know, whenever you are working alone, at least in my experience as Sledge, is like you want to be at a spot where you can create these odd angles, you know, and have this vertical gameplay, looking at it from the top and putting pressure from these unexpected places, because that's where he really shines with his hammer. You know, it's kind of like in the Thor movies where Odin says, you know, that Mjolnir, the hammer, could be a great tool for building or a weapon of destruction. It's the same thing with the hammer. And you got to realize something, that whenever you do knock a wall down, whenever you do break that false belief within your mind that there's going to be some vulnerability involved. And if you knock down the wrong wall at the wrong time, you let the other team see your vulnerability and they can capitalize on you. And you might have changed the game in a not so great way for a second or two if you don't pay attention to what walls you're knocking down. And at the very least, having a teammate there to help and pick you up. And that's where your closest relationships come in. And, you know, giving yourself permission to be vulnerable is something that really does come from within, and that takes strength. And, you know, it takes that mental focus, that mental juice to run that kind of strength and really contribute to the team, contribute to the like-minded individuals that are around you, and forget the rest. Forget about, you know, being vulnerable in front of the wrong crowd, because they don't care anyway, you know, and that's okay. And another part of this, though, as far as making my own breakout contribution and making a difference, is you have to respect the gas tank. You know, eventually you can't swing that hammer anymore before you have to rest and recoup. And for me, I'm learning that it's more important to actually experience life rather than just aimlessly knocking down walls or sitting still waiting for something to happen. And within that, those A-level opportunities are beginning to surface. I'm beginning to be able to talk to the who I should be speaking to, and it gets a little bit clearer every day. And I know it will with you guys as well. So remember, you're just one upgrade away. Boo, boo. All right. I got to go. That was pretty good, I think. Probably. You guys let me know in the comments. Boop, boop, doo. By the way, be sure to check out Expert Secrets. It's one of the links down there. That's where I'm getting the Epiphany Bridge script from. And if you want my really amazing offer that I put together for you whenever you do buy Expert Secrets, be sure to go through that link. So see you guys.